Today's my birthday. Although when you watch this, maybe it's not my birthday. Anyway, I'm going to talk about what I've learned over 41 years of being an audiophile. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about what I've learned. Maybe not do what I did. I would consider my first foray into being an audiophile when I was 6. Yes, when I was 6. If you've watched some of my other videos, you may know that when I was 6, I got a Walkman, and I begged my parents for one. It wasn't something that they just went out and said, hey, maybe Randy would like a Walkman. No, I bothered them. I bugged them. I was very persistent about exactly what I wanted because I loved music. I don't know why. Grand Funk Railroad. The Locomotion. And I used to wear that thing out, and I would do my little dances. And it was one of those little crappy plastic clamshell record players. I have to put a quarter or two on top of it just to keep it going. But for whatever reason, I knew that I connected to music in a way that I didn't really connect with other things. Like, yeah, I like sports and stuff, but it was records, tapes, the record player, the Walkman, the headphones. There was something that was really appealing to me, almost on an unconscious level, that I was drawn to music in that way. And when I got that first Walkman, the rest, as they say, is history. Looking back, one of the most important lessons that I think I've learned is to enjoy my music multiple ways. And when I say that, you can almost say enjoy your music in multiple locations. Because I did have a system, a pretty decent system, when I was 12. I had a realistic receiver, some Kenwood speakers, an Emerson CD player, I think a Sony tape deck, cassette player. So I had that home system. I also had another Walkman at that time. And when I turned 14, I had a farmer's permit, which since I lived on the farm, it meant I could drive back and forth to school. So I started building out my first car stereo system when I was 14. Point being is I had already had mobile music, I had music at home, and then I had music in the car. Remember the car stereo cassette adapters? Look like a cassette, you would put it in there, and then you'd be tethered to this cassette adapter. And then I would take that 3.5 and I'd plug it into a portable CD player. And back then, portable CD players skipped really badly. So I'd have to position it on my lap just right. And if I took a corner, it would slide off. And couldn't put it on your dash because it was a 79 Dodge RT and it was just shaking everywhere. Anyway, I still wanted to have CDs in the car because who doesn't want a CD player in the car? That was big time. Back in 1990, 91. I had mobile audio, I had car audio, and I had home audio. And in a way, I enjoyed it differently. Actually, my car audio system, I had those triangle Pioneer. You'd sit them in the back, you know. If you hit the brakes too hard, they come flying forward and become a projectile, knock your buddy out in the back of the head. Anyway, we'd take those, we'd put them on top of the car, and then we'd go out and sit in pastures and have fun. And the old 79 Dodge was the cornerstone of that fun because it provided the music. If you don't have headphones, I know, I get it, people love 2-channel. I know, I get it, people love headphones. But if you don't cross over, I would highly encourage you to do that. If you don't have a decent car stereo, see if you can make the music in your car sound better. I know it's very difficult to change out head units on cars these days because of the integrated nature of modern cars. I would imagine, though, that there's probably some tone controls in there and maybe some time delays in there that you can focus the music to maybe your position. There are options that you can explore in your car to make the music sound better. If you're not into headphones, try out some headphones, though, because most of my listening that I do for my pure enjoyment is done over headphones in a corner of my living room while the kids are hanging out doing their own thing. Simply because that is the least intrusive way I can enjoy music. Yes, I listen to home theater. Yes, I listen to 2-channel all of the time. But when I'm sitting listening for pleasure, it's over headphones. So consider multiple ways of enjoying your music. If you are new here, please consider subscribing. Do me a favor, like this video. It's my birthday, so like this video just because it's my birthday. You can always take it back later. We have over 600 videos, so chances are there's something for you here. Thank you for watching. Do you know the principle that will keep man in everlasting ignorance? That is contempt prior to investigation. And I practiced it a lot before I was just open to new ideas. Contempt prior to investigation means you already have an opinion about something even though you've never experienced it or had any time with that piece of equipment. It could be DACs. You could say, hey, all DACs sound the same. It's just ones and zeros. That's contempt prior to investigation, unless you've listened to about 10 different DACs and they all sounded the same. And trust me, there are 10 DACs that do sound the same, but I've listened to probably 50 of them, and the majority of them do have a difference. Another one, Chinese Class D amplification is terrible. That was true for a long time. But Class D has gotten better. Not everybody, and not everybody implements it correctly or in a way that I think is pleasing sonically. But saying that all Chinese Class D amps are garbage is contempt prior to investigation. I thought that if I spent a certain amount of money on equipment, that it was going to sound better. And that's the real genesis of this whole channel. Keffelis 50s, Moon by Sim Audio. I saved up, I sourced these pieces, and I thought everything was going to be great. And I was thoroughly disappointed. And that's what sent me down this rabbit hole, to try to listen to as many affordable products as I could. I didn't know if they were going to sound good. But I wasn't going to sit back and just say, that stuff is all garbage. And I think if you've had the same system for a long time and you have a lot of opinions on other things that you've never experienced, then you, my friend, may be practicing contempt prior to investigation. And if you want to stay in everlasting ignorance, continue to do so. However, if you're open to new ideas and new things, you could be missing out on a whole bunch of happy music time. The other thing that I learned over 41 years of being an audiophile is that I didn't know I was an audiophile. I didn't know I was an audiophile until probably the last 5 years, simply because I was interested in the music. First cassette I ever bought was Huey Lewis and the News 4. However, I had 2 copies of Thriller by Michael Jackson, and I burned through them. So I was given Thriller, but the reason why I burned through them so quickly is because I think that was the only cassette that I had. I'd record songs off the radio. And let me tell you, if you're talking about low fidelity, cassettes and recording things off the radio are about as low as you can get, but I didn't care because I was enjoying the music. The only thing I like to do is buy as much music as I possibly could. And when Napster came out, I tried downloading it, but some of it was bad. Anyway, I still bought music even when Napster was the thing. But I wasn't concerned about the equipment. I wasn't concerned about speaker placement. I wasn't concerned about soundstage and imaging. I was only concerned about how the music sounded. And as I grew more and as I learned more, yes, I got better sound. But it wasn't ever about the equipment for me. Later, maybe, it was about the music and the music enjoyment. So I didn't even realize I was an audiophile. I never would have identified as an audiophile until probably the last 5 years. I didn't know I was an audiophile. Rent your speakers and marry your sources. There's an old saying in cameras and videography. Rent your bodies, marry your lenses. Because lenses don't really change. Amplifiers and sources, with the exception of DACs, don't really change. Speakers, you may kind of change your, maybe I don't like this as much, or I want to change something out. I think though, once you get your sources squared away, as far as this is my turntable, I love this turntable, yeah, you can upgrade cartridges later. But if you have the source right, if you have the amp right, you don't really need to change that. If you want to change up the system, I would concentrate on speakers. And the funny thing is, I used to say kind of the opposite. I used to say, upgrade your speakers first. However, if you think you're going to be in this hobby long term, spend the bucks on the source and the amp, and then you can start playing around the speakers later, because those pieces of equipment can be with you for decades. Marry your amp and sources. Just date the speakers. What have you learned over your journey as being an audiophile? What did you think was truth, and what did you later find to be false? Put it in the comments, please. The last thing I will leave you with is your music choices. When I became an audiophile, or I had better equipment, I started listening to music that I was told was audiophile recordings. Okay, fine, that's cool. But I think if you start choosing your music based on your system, you're missing the boat. And there is something to be said about discovering and enjoying new music that you haven't heard before. But if you just start listening to certain things that just showcase the ability of your system, here's a litmus test. If you won't listen to it on your Bluetooth headphones, if you won't listen to it in your car, I probably am not listening to it on my really expensive audiophile system because I don't really like that music. It's just showing off for other people. I went to a guy's house and there's a bunch of ping pong balls dropping around and everything. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is so great. I don't care about that. I don't care about somebody writing on the ceiling and hearing the imaging and stuff like that. Don't care. I want to listen to Nirvana. I want to listen to Metallica. I want to listen to Korn. I don't just like metal, but most of the time I'm listening to metal. Point being is don't let your system dictate what music you listen to. Make your system support the music that you love. This is all about musical enjoyment. So if your system isn't supporting the music that you love, then it's not a good system. It could cost $30,000, but if it's not punching you in the face when you want to be punched in the face, I don't know if that's a thing for you, then it's not the right system. So if you want to support the channel, sign up for Patreon. Patreon.com/CheapAudioMan. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord, Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also sign up for Amazon Music, Tidal, or Roon. Links in the description. Click, sign up. There's usually a trial. Even if you quit, though, I still get a couple of bucks. You can also use the affiliate links in the description. If you click and you buy, I do get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more, so it's a great way to support the channel. You can also use the thanks button down at the bottom of the video, next to the share button. Buy me a cup of coffee, but don't feel compelled to buy me anything. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.